let's talk about porn.
Yeah.
Not just porn, but also I wanted to get your perspective on how dating apps. First of all, I wanted to get your opinion on dating apps, and I also wanted to get your opinion on what you've observed, because you've been doing this for 7 years, right?
Mm.
So 7 years is, especially when you consider how fast things are changing now, 7 years is certainly a decent enough time to sort of see how things are affected by like technology and whatnot. So how have you noticed any difference that dating apps have made in the dating world and also in how men show up in the dating world?
Well, dating apps have existed long before I started this, but they came in probably 2000. I think maybe it was 2015. I think it was 2012 when Tinder started. It was 2012, in my experience anyway, when Tinder, people started downloading it unironically, right? Before then, it was like, oh my God, look at all these losers. And then something switched, and I remember like going into my university halls, and there was a bunch of girls sitting around on Tinder actually swiping and using it. I was like, this is weird. And so I think that happened in 2012, right? So I started this around 2015, 2016. I mean, look, I don't want to say that there's like one moment where like everything changed. I just think that for at least as long as I've been in this industry, things have, screen time has increased, and Instagram and Tinder have become increasingly used and increasingly attractive. And I think it is for the worse, for the net worse. I believe that it is damaging and problematic to be using Tinder where there are other options. And in almost all cases there are. So my take on it is the following. It's like Tinder is, you don't get free meals in this world. You don't get free meals. Nothing comes for free, right? The Tinder, the idea is that you get something for free. It's like, I'm never going to meet the girl, but maybe I'll find that beautiful girl on Tinder. It's like, you're not going to, because you're here, you're on Tinder. And what are you saying by being on Tinder? You're saying that I don't have these girls in real life. I don't have the ability to meet women in real life. So here I am. It's the last chance is this application. I'm outsourcing my love life, my dating life, to a corporation. I'm giving them all my information. I'm smiling and looking as good as I can in my pictures, and I'm saying the best things about me. And maybe then she'll come along. And what did we talk about before? Women have evolved primarily to know which man does and which man does not have the value that would make him a worthy partner. And the first sign that you're not a worthy partner for probably the types of women that you really want is that you're on this dating app telling her that you've got no other way, right? So look, that is quite a black and white thing, right? There are many shades of grey here, but I want to just give the overarching theme as I see it, and why it pisses me off, right? Why Tinder as an idea, I just find it so disappointing, isn't it? It's just such a disappointing way for life to go. Now look, as it relates to porn, so that's the first thing, right? Women know, right? And from a man's perspective, you can even do this equation, right? If a really seemingly attractive girl on Tinder suddenly matches with you, why has this happened? Your first thing should be like, wait, this isn't normal, right? Why is this girl not got guys? She must have guys coming up to her in real life, right? She's a very attractive, seemingly cool girl. Why is she matching with me on Tinder? Why? So the first thing I would think, if a really beautiful girl matched me on Tinder, is red flag. What's gone wrong in her social life that she doesn't have options with cool guys, and she's resorted to this app, right? Again, this is a little bit maybe judgmental sounding, but I'm just trying to give the black and white view first. Now, the next thing is that, as you talked about porn, is that Tinder for me is just soft porn, right? Increasingly, I mean, it's just bikini pics, right? If a girl doesn't have a full body pic, most guys are going to think that something's up, right? Something's wrong there. Most of them have a bikini pic or an underwear pic or something like that. It's getting increasingly sexual. And we know what the human brain is like, right? Women's brains are stimulated by words and emotion. Men's brains are stimulated by the visual. So when we see naked girl, half naked girl, we get slightly aroused. When we swipe 50 times in 5 minutes or more, then each time we see that, our brain is getting that dopamine hit of what's next, which takes away our freedom and autonomy for decision making, right? It literally trains you out of decision making, right? So you don't have the capacity to make good decisions and say, no, I'm not gonna masturbate now. So that's being taken, and you're getting more and more aroused. So I mean, I think that Tinder is just like, if you've got nothing to do in the day and you can't get yourself outside the house, you go on Tinder for 30 minutes. I reckon 50% of guys are gonna have a wank after 30 minutes of Tinder in the middle of the day, right? And then what? And then you have that self-loathing inside. It's like, oh God, you're disgusting. Like, you sat here for 30 minutes swiping through Tinder, and then this is how it ended, and now you're impotent. Now you can't even go out now, and you've got no sex drive and no will to do anything. It's really depressing, man. I think it's really depressing. So I advise all my clients, like, get off Tinder. The one function that I do think Tinder provides is, for example, if you're traveling to a new country, you can set up Tinder Gold, which is, I'm not getting sponsored by them, by the way. You can set up Tinder Gold and put your location to that country, right? So if I go to Colombia, I could say, like, put my pin in Colombia, and then I could swipe through beforehand and try and build a little network on the ground beforehand, right? Maybe if there's 5 girls that I move then onto WhatsApp, and potentially got their numbers on WhatsApp or on Instagram or something, which I don't use at the moment, but could have value there. And then you arrange to meet them over WhatsApp, and then you delete the app when you get to Colombia, right? But at least now you've got some people that can show you around the city and maybe introduce you to some other people. Maybe you've got some sort of way in to the country. And even then, I don't necessarily recommend that. It's passable, right? And it could be valuable in some cases. Other than that, I think for anyone that has 1-2 hours each day where they could be focusing on their social life, they should be, and they should not be using Tinder. Go outside your door. Go out, literally stand outside your front door. You're more likely to get an attractive girl walking past your front door than on Tinder. It's just not going to happen for 90% of, 95 to 99% of guys.
Yeah, I feel you. So you'd recommend that people do not use Tinder, and certainly not as a substitute for a social life, at all. Does that same... So actually, before I move on to that, I want to ask you, so this rampant use of Tinder, how is it affecting men, would you say, on a broader scale?
Well, because of what we've just talked about, I think that it's making men more impotent. I think that on Tinder, the algorithms work in such a way that you see a lot of attractive women, and those are never the ones that you meet up with, right? I mean, if you ask the average guy, how many beautiful women, in your opinion, cool, beautiful women have you met on Tinder? The answer is going to be astoundingly low. And that's because for men, there seems to be an accurate visualization of attractive women. So if you ask a man, how attractive is this girl on Tinder, it will generally tend to correspond with what most people believe. But for women, 80% of men on Tinder in trials that they've done are rated a 4 or below. 80% of men get a rating of a 4 or below for women on Tinder, right? So the whole thing is proportionally skewed. And I think that, rejection in real life, I think, is so valuable, right? To go out and ask for a job and get rejected, to go out and talk to a girl in the day and her to not want you, and for you to be able to overcome that and smile inside yourself that you did the right thing despite that response. You know you did what's right. It's incredibly valuable. But the constant rejection of endless swiping and endless seeing a beautiful girl and it never happening for you, I think is just demoralizing and depressing. And I think the urge to go on Tinder is never unaccompanied by some level of self-loathing. And I think the results of having gone on Tinder and whatever might come to pass at the end of a 30-minute stint is never unaccompanied by some level of self-loathing as well. So I think that Tinder is slowly causing men to hate themselves in the moment. But as we know from habits, you essentially become your habits, right? Your whole personality is based around what you repeatedly do. If you find yourself 8 moments throughout the day falling into this moment of self-loathing, you will start to be a person that self-loathes. You will start to identify with self-loathing. And so I think that's the result of not only Tinder, but Instagram as well, where most people's home front page is just filled with beautiful dancing women who are completely unattainable and who are just edging them towards the precipice of self-pleasuring.
Jerking it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting you mentioned about rejection, and I like what you said, that rejection is it's useful. I would argue that it's essential.
Yeah.
To getting what it is that you want, you're going to be rejected, whether it is for business opportunities or dating opportunities. You're going to get rejected way more often than you're going to get accepted.
Yeah, just to add in that, so not only is it essential, but it also makes the thing worth having, right? it like literally, if you went for that job and the first one you went to was just like, yep, you're hired, you'd be like, huh?
And
That
any
was
other
too
subsequent
easy.
job after that, it's like, you're hired. Yeah, you're
that
hired.
was too
Like,
easy. In the same way as if you went out and the first girl you met in the street, she loved you and wanted to be with you, and then the second did the same, you'd just be like,
there'd be nothing to contend with.
The whole thing for me, this is the most important thing about cold approach, isn't the results that it brings you. It's that as men today in the 21st century, we have lost conquest, right? Thank God we don't have a world war to fight through. Thank God we're not going in Viking longboats and raping and murdering a civilization and then celebrating. Right? Great, we've gained in ethical or moral judgment. However, there was something in that, right? There's something in war that is romantic. There's something essential there, right? And what I believe it is it's conquest. It's seeing a challenge and knowing that you've overcome it. Right? And we have so few opportunities for that today. Men have so few opportunities to see themselves conquering something. And I'm not referring to conquering the woman necessarily. I'm referring to conquering the situation. And for me, cold approach is almost potentially the most direct way that a man can get that sense of conquest. And I don't mean conquest in the obvious way that you'd relate it, as in like you're having sex with her. I mean the situation of doing something that tears you up inside. You see a beautiful girl, you get all of these reasons why you're not going to talk to her, all of this negative self-talk. You recognize it, you push it to the side, you go and do it, she smiles at you, you have a good conversation. Maybe you arrange to go for a drink, right? And if you do, right, and if you have a great experience with her, like what is more of an obvious way of experiencing the sense, the romance, and the beauty of conquest? Probably what the Vikings felt when they went and,
they sailed off in a longboat and showed up on the shores of the UK like, holy shit, we actually made it.
I know, and you can't help but see what was beautiful about that, right? Even though it was also murderous and horrible, you can't deny that there's something romantic and beautiful hidden in there as well.
It's the overcoming of
the obstacle,
of obstacle,
the challenge,
and
the romance,
and the fear
the war.
of. And in the case of the Vikings, because I love that story, it's like the fear of the complete unknown. It's like they're sailing off in that direction and have absolutely no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah,
and it's the same kind of thing. It's like you approach a beautiful woman, you do not know how this is going to go down.
Sure.
And the thing about Tinder and rejection, I wonder. I might even make the argument that a man who is just swiping on Tinder, he is trying to get the thing he wants while trying to avoid the real rejection. Because like if you're swiping, there isn't that woman in front of you who's looking at you and it's like, yeah. Like it's a softened version of a rejection that they might want to be trying to avoid. But through softening the possibility of rejection or the pain of the rejection, if it was there, they make themselves essentially weaker, like less courageous and less willing to confront a challenge in a way.
100%, and more socially anxious, right? The longer you spend looking at pictures of attractive women on your phone, the less confident you're going to be in front of one in real life, right? I often find myself around clients or friends, and when I find myself like on a night out, and my friends or my clients start saying, "Oh man, you've got to look at this girl. Like, look at this girl who I talked to the other day." That's a point where I'm like, okay, something needs to change here, because what will happen, and I've seen it 1,000 times, is guys will start like comparing photos and talking about women, the sort of locker room banter.
Yeah.
And then a beautiful girl will walk past and no one will go and talk to her. They'll all pretend they didn't see her. Right? And this actually happens.
Yeah.
And it's because they've put themselves in this ego state of like, look what I did before, right? You put yourself in this I'm the guy type thing. And then when you see a girl in that state, you can't fathom tearing that facade down now and having her just say, go away.
Yeah.
And walking away. Like how can that be acceptable to this state that you've worked yourself into, looking at pictures of girls that you've dated or talked to?
Yeah.
And so I just comes to the drop it. It comes back to what we talked about before about just drop it, right? Yes, that happened in the past. You don't need to prove that to anyone. Drop it.
Mm-hmm.
Drop it. Like you're gonna suck at some point in the future. Sometimes you're gonna feel good. Sometimes you're gonna suck again. You're gonna suck. And so we just have to completely accept that and not get worked up about whether we're good or bad or anything like that. Some women, like some men, some of the time. That's all you need to know. And it's your job to stay aware of the opportunities that exist and go there without any expectation or preconditioned state that you're expecting things to go a certain way.